The most common logical function in Excel is the if function. The if function performs some sort of test, and if the result of that test is true, you can tell it to perform one set of actions, and if the result of that test is false, you can perform a different set of actions. Let's look at this sheet called First If in the file Excel 2. I have a series of months from January to December, and I've given you a budget. This is how much you can spend in January, $1,500, and in February you have a budget to spend up to $700. In column D, I've asked you to record what you've actually spent. And so in January you've actually spent $200, and in February you've actually spent $1,200. Now I can see in January that you're under budget, but in February I can see that you're over budget. But I don't want to have to go through and analyze each pair of numbers for each month to figure out if you're over or under budget. I actually want a function in E3 that tells me if you're over or under budget. So in E3 I'm going to put an if function by typing equals I. If I type equals I can see the if function, and here it says it checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another value if false. So let's double click if. Here you can see the if function is made up of a test, then what you want to do if it's true, and what you want to do if it's false, each separated with a comma. The first test I'd like to perform is if D3 is greater than C3. Now if that's true, then I'm over budget. So I'm going to press comma and say what I want it to show me if that's true. If D3 is greater than C3, I'm going to show the text over budget, and text always has to reside within double quotes. So double quote, and that's not two single quotes, that's one double quote. And then I'm going to type over budget. And then comma. If that's false, if D3 is not greater than C3, then I want to show the text, double quote, under budget. So if D3 is greater than C3, if that's true, show the text over budget. If that's false, show the text under budget. And you're only ever allowed spaces in a formula if it's inside of double quotes to form a sentence or a phrase like over budget. So I'm going to press enter. And immediately I can see that I'm under budget for January. If I then place my mouse in the lower right corner of E3 and double click the thin black cross, I can fill that formula down, and I can see at a glance if I'm over budget or under budget for any particular month. I can test if the if statement is working by going to D3 and typing 2000. As soon as I press enter, I'm over budget. If I put it back to 200, as soon as I press enter, I'm under budget. Now something that we're going to look at later is something called conditional formatting, but I want to bring it in now because mixing the conditional formatting with an if statement is extremely popular. I'm going to highlight E3 to E14. On the Home tab in the ribbon, I'll click the button Conditional Formatting. I'll choose the option Highlight Cell Rules, and I'll click Text that contains, which means that if a cell contains certain text. If a cell contains the text over, then I want it to be a light red fill with dark red text, and you can see in the background it's already done it. So I'll click OK. So if I now test the theory, if in D3 200 was a typo and it should be 2000, I'll type 2000, and suddenly I'm over budget and it's red. If I type 200, I'm back to under budget and its original format, which is green. So an if function is very, very useful to make a decision. Now let's extend this a bit further. I want to click on E2 and drag the thin black cross to the right to repeat status in F2. In F3 I want to put another if statement that does the same test but gives me a different result. In F3 I'll go equals I and double click if. If D3 is greater than C3, comma. So same test. But if that's true, that D3 is greater than C3, then I want to see how much I've blown the budget by. So I want a formula. Formulas don't go in double quotes, otherwise they'll be interpreted as text. So if D3 is greater than C3, I want to see C3 minus D3. If that's not true, comma, I want to see nothing. To show nothing, we simply put double quote with nothing in between the double quotes. You could put a space if you wanted to, but it's not necessary. And I've pressed enter. Got a bit ahead of myself. Nothing appears in F3 because we haven't blown the budget for January. But if I double click the thin black cross and fill it down, I have blown the budget in February, March and April, June, July and in November. So if D3 is greater than C3, show me how much I've overspent, otherwise show me nothing. Now I'd also like to put this green background and border over the cells in column F. So I'm going to click on E3. I'm going to go to my Format Painter, which is up in my Home tab underneath Cut and Copy, and I'm going to brush that over F3 to F14. And that just gives it that standard green background and borders look. But now, in addition to that, I want to apply conditional formatting. So I'm going to highlight F3 to F14. I'm going to go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, and instead of text that contains, this time I'll choose less than. Because if something is less than 0, i.e. it's a negative value, I need it to show red. So I'll go less than, and I'll type 0. And it will format cells that are less than 0 to have a light red fill with dark red text. So I'll go OK. So let's just test everything. Again, I'll go to D3 and I'll type 2000. I'm now over budget by $500. If I put 200 back in, I'm now under budget, so I'm not worried about how much. And so conditional formatting is very, very popular with an if function. And that's a basic if function. Test true, false.